I want to tell you about a dog named Remy. He was a 7-year-old golden retriever, one of those dogs that greets you at the door every single day with the same enthusiasm as if you'd been gone for a year. His owner, a woman named Sandra, brought him in on a Tuesday afternoon. She wasn't alarmed. She just said he seemed a little off, quieter, less interested in his walks. She assumed he was tired. What I found during that exam stopped me cold. Remy had developed bilateral progressive retinal atrophy, a condition where the photoreceptor cells in the back of the eye slowly die off one by one, like lights going out in a house. He wasn't tired, he was going blind, and he had been for months. Sandra had no idea. She'd been looking at her dog every single day, and he'd been looking back at her. But the image he was seeing had been quietly dissolving at the edges, then deeper, until the world had become a blur of motion and shadow. She cried, not because he was sick. She cried because she said, "He kept looking for me. I thought he was just being affectionate. He was looking for me because he couldn't find me." That conversation changed the way I think about dog vision, about what it means for a dog to look at you, about what you actually are to them, visually, neurologically, emotionally. And I've spent the last 2 decades asking that question in a much deeper way. Stay with me through this entire video, because what I'm about to show you about how your dog sees the world, and specifically how they see your face, is not what you think. And the last piece of research I'm going to share with you will change the way you walk through your front door tonight. Here's what most people believe. Dogs are colorblind. They see the world in black and white, like an old movie. Grayscale, dull, limited. That's wrong. It's not completely wrong, but it's wrong enough that it matters. Think of your eye like a camera sensor. Inside that sensor, you have 2 kinds of cells doing the work, rods and cones. Rods handle low light and motion. Cones handle color. You have 3 types of cones, one for red, one for green, one for blue. That's called trichromatic vision, and it's why you can see about 10 million distinct colors on a clear afternoon. Your dog has 2 types of cones, not 3, 2. They see blue and yellow, red and green, gone, collapsed into the same muddy, ambiguous tone. So that bright red toy you throw across the grass, to your dog, it's roughly the color of the grass. Same hue. They're not tracking the color, they're tracking the movement. This is called dichromatic vision. 2 colors instead of 3. Not black and white, but a world that looks, if you've ever seen those photos processed through a dog vision filter, something like the world seen by a person with red-green color blindness, faded reds, washed-out oranges, blues and yellows that pop. Everything else? A kind of yellowish beige. But here's where it gets interesting, and here's where the story completely changes. Your dog's eye has 4 to 5 times more rod cells than yours. 4 to 5 times. Rods, remember? The cells that handle low light and motion. So in dim conditions, in that half-lit room at 6 in the morning, your dog is seeing a world you are essentially blind to. They can detect motion in near darkness. They can track a squirrel across a field in conditions that would leave you squinting and useless. And there's one more thing most people have never heard of. Dogs have a structure called the tapetum lucidum. That's the Latin term for bright tapestry, which I'll admit is a beautiful name for what it does. It sits directly behind the retina, and it acts like a mirror. Light enters the eye, hits the retina, and whatever isn't absorbed gets reflected right back for a second pass. The retina gets 2 chances at every photon of light. That's why your dog's eyes glow in a photograph. That's why they can navigate a dark hallway at 3 a.m. while you're tripping over the coffee table. Their world is not a lesser version of yours. It's a different world. Dimmer colors, yes, but faster, more sensitive to movement, more alive at the edges of darkness. I've been in practice for 22 years. I've examined tens of thousands of animals. I've operated on dogs ranging from 6-week-old puppies to 15-year-old seniors. And I've held animals in the final hours of their lives. Animals whose owners did everything right, loved them completely, and still lost them to something they didn't see coming. Every single time, I ask myself the same question. How did it get this far? How did something this significant go unnoticed for this long? And more often than not, the answer is the same. Nobody told the owner how this animal actually works. Nobody sat down and explained it. Veterinary appointments are 12 minutes on a good day. There is no time for what I'm about to tell you next. So stay with me, because we're only halfway there, and what comes next is the part that will actually change how you understand your dog. Now I want to talk about your face, specifically what your face looks like to your dog. We've established that they see two colors instead of three. That motion is their dominant visual language. That darkness is not their enemy the way it is ours. So when your dog sits across the room and stares at you, and they do, you know they do, what are they actually seeing? Researchers at the Family Dog Project in Budapest set out to answer exactly that question. They used MRI imaging to study what happens inside a dog's brain when they're shown human faces. The answer was not what anyone expected. Dogs have a dedicated region in their brain for processing human faces. Not all faces, human faces specifically. And when your dog looks at you, at your face, that region activates, reliably. Consistently, they are not just detecting a familiar shape, they are reading you, studying the relationship between your eyes and your mouth and your brow in a way that has real neural architecture behind it. But here's the part that stopped me when I first read this research. The reward center in your dog's brain, the same region that activates when they eat food, when they play, when they experience something deeply pleasurable, that region also activates in response to your face. Your face is coded in your dog's brain alongside food, alongside joy. They don't see you in full color. They've never seen the exact red of your shirt or the full green of your eyes, but they know your face in a way that is written into their neurology. Not learned, written. Pause on that for a moment. I want you to really sit with it. Have you ever noticed that your dog tracks your face differently than they track anything else in a room? That their gaze follows your eyes, not just your hands or your feet? That's not coincidence. That's a brain doing exactly what it was shaped to do. Over 15,000 years of living alongside humans, dogs evolved a specific visual strategy for reading our faces. Dogs do this, wolves don't. This is not a general mammal behavior. This is a dog behavior, built for you. Now I need to tell you something that directly affects your dog's life, not just your understanding of it. The visual system I've described is extraordinary, but it's also fragile in ways most owners never think about. Your dog's eye, with its tapetum, its abundance of rod cells, its motion-sensitive periphery, is tuned for a specific kind of world. And when that system starts to fail, it fails quietly. Remy, the golden retriever from the beginning of this video, his retinal cells had been dying for months before Sandra noticed anything was wrong, because dogs compensate beautifully, heartbreakingly well. The first thing I want you to do tonight, watch your dog navigate a dark room. Turn off the lights when they don't know you're watching. A dog with healthy rod cells moves through darkness with confidence. A dog whose rods are deteriorating will hesitate at thresholds. They'll bump softly into furniture they've known for years. They'll wait at the top of stairs. This is called nyctalopia, night blindness, and it's often the first sign of progressive retinal atrophy. It shows up before any daytime vision loss, months before. And if you catch it early, there are interventions. Not cures, but management. Supplements, specifically antioxidants targeting retinal oxidative stress, have shown promise in slowing progression in certain breeds. Have you ever watched your dog at dusk, specifically, in that in-between light? Tell me in the comments what you notice. I read every one. The second thing I want you to understand, field of view. Your visual field covers roughly 180 degrees. Your dog sees between 240 and 270 degrees, depending on the breed. Their eyes are positioned more toward the sides of their head, wider set than ours, which gives them that panoramic awareness. They can see nearly all the way behind themselves without turning their head. But that wide field comes with a trade-off. The area of binocular vision, the overlap zone directly in front of them, where both eyes work together to judge depth, is narrower than yours. About 30 to 60 degrees compared to your 120. which means depth perception up close, not their strength. They struggle to focus on objects right in front of their nose. That's partly why your dog sometimes sniffs something directly in front of them before interacting with it. They're supplementing what they can't see clearly with what they can smell precisely. Think about that the next time you hold a treat right in front of their face and they seem to fumble for it. They're not being clumsy. They're navigating a genuine blind zone. The third thing, and this one I want you to sit with, is about movement. Dogs detect motion at about 10 to 20 times the speed that we do. They can catch visual changes in the environment that are completely invisible to the human eye. A flicker of movement in the periphery at dusk that you'd miss entirely. They've already locked onto it. This is why your dog sometimes barks at nothing, at a wall, at a corner of the room. You look and see absolutely nothing. But they caught a visual flicker, a shadow shift, a subtle movement behind a curtain, something that passed through the edge of their field of view in a fraction of a second, and their brain flagged it as significant. They're not hallucinating. They're seeing something real that you don't have the equipment to see. The clinical application here: dogs with anxiety are often profoundly reactive to visual stimuli precisely because of this motion sensitivity. If your dog seems jumpy, startles easily, has a hard time settling in busy environments, some of that is temperament, yes, but some of it is literally their visual system doing its job too well in a world that's too full of movement. Frosted window films that diffuse visual stimulation. Positioning their resting area away from high-traffic windows. These are not just comfort measures, they are accommodations for a nervous system that is working exactly as designed. I had a 5-year-old border collie named Ellis in my clinic last year. Brilliant dog, completely overwhelmed by life in an apartment in the city. His owner had tried everything: training, medication, behavioral consultation. What nobody had addressed was that his crate sat directly in front of a ground floor window looking onto a busy street. He had an unobstructed view of hundreds of visual triggers per hour. All day, every day. We moved the crate. Within 2 weeks, his owner sent me a video of him sleeping. Just sleeping, peacefully, one change, that's what it took. Now, here's where I want to bring this all together, and I want you to see the thread that connects everything I've told you. The color limitation, the rod abundance, the tapetum, the wide field of view, the motion sensitivity, the face processing region, the reward response. These aren't separate facts. They are one coherent system. A visual system shaped by a specific evolutionary purpose: to live alongside you, to track prey in low light, to read your body language, to catch your mood from across a room before you've said a single word. Different features, all serving the same relationship. That's not a metaphor. That's neuroscience. Your dog built an entire visual system around you, around living with you, reading you, finding you in the dark. Which brings me back to Sandra and to Remy. She called me 3 months after that first appointment. She'd started the antioxidant supplement protocol we discussed. She'd covered the lower half of her windows to reduce visual confusion in low light. She'd learned to call his name before entering rooms so he could locate her with sound before his eyes caught up. And she said something I've thought about almost every week since. She said, "I realized I spent years worrying about whether he could see me clearly. And then I learned that seeing me clearly was never the point. He's always known exactly where I am." That question she didn't ask, but that hangs in the air after every conversation like this one. Why didn't anyone tell me sooner? That's why I make these videos. I've seen too many Remys, too many owners who loved their animals completely and simply didn't have the information they needed. That gap is the thing I can actually do something about. So here's what I want you to take from today. Your dog sees a world of motion and shadow and golden blue light. They navigate darkness with tools you don't have. Their peripheral awareness is so wide it borders on supernatural. And yes, their color range is narrower than yours, but their visual system built something yours didn't: a dedicated neural pathway for your face, a reward response triggered specifically by looking at you. 15,000 years of evolutionary pressure, all pointing at the same conclusion: you are not just a person in their life. You are a visual anchor, a neurological home. Tonight, when you get home, don't look at your phone before you look at your dog. Let their face processing system do what it was built to do. Give them your eyes first. That's all I'm asking. Just that. If someone in your life has a dog, especially if they've never thought about what the world looks like through their dog's eyes, send them this video. It costs you nothing. It might change everything about how they understand that relationship. Everything I've shared today is based on current veterinary and comparative neuroscience research and on my 22 years of clinical experience. It is not a replacement for individual veterinary care. If you have concerns about your dog's vision, night hesitation, bumping into objects, changes in how they navigate, please talk to your veterinarian. A board-certified veterinary ophthalmologist can perform a full retinal assessment and give you answers that no video ever can. Your vet is your partner in this. Please use them.